Train the muscles, not the joints. So welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to do a little bit of legs. I'm just going to do a little bit of squatting and a little bit of leg curling here, and a little bit of entertainment in between. And I just want to talk about a subject, and it's arching the back. Okay, I had a discussion with a really nice dude on the internet here, and he was super respectful and nice, and just shared his views of what he's learning in school and stuff about the neutral back position when you're squatting and when you're bent over rowing and doing all this kind of stuff. But I want to share just some of my experience of what I've discovered through herniating a disc and through also seeing other people injure their backs and other people not injure their backs, and just try to be open, just try to listen to me just for a moment, okay? So first of all, I think a lot of this advice is going to depend on how you're built, because some people are built with a really strong, hyper arched back. You know, naturally it looks like they're twerking all the time. I mean, they're walking around, they look like they're twerking because that's just the way their back is built. And some people have naturally rounded backs. So depending on how this natural structure is occurring in your body, this probably will influence a certain amount of how you should concentrate when you are training, okay? A person with a really strongly arched back doesn't need to concentrate as much on arching their back or maintaining the arch because it's naturally already occurring. And I think if anything, a tiny bit of rounding might be okay for them, a tiny bit, okay? So their back is still in the arch position, but it's not really a big risk. I would say that's not really the weak link for them, okay? So I want to share a little bit of my experience. One experience is when I was rounding my back when I deadlifted when I was 18 years old, I actually herniated a disc from the rounding of my back. Now, I know a deadlift is different than squat, but definitely if you're deadlifting, maintain the arch, for sure. This is camera skills right here, buddy. See this? This is some special shit right here. Special shit, eh? Look at this. No, man, I'm gonna squat. You see right now, I'm in the shot. You see how cool that is? It's badass. It gives you the experience, see?
You see those veins popping, it's so close.
Yeah, right now, forehead, the eyeballs. The eyeballs popping out, whatever. Hey, how's it going? Okay, give me a spot. Give me a spot, yeah. Give me a spot. That's how you do it. You're a hell of a training partner. You're a hell of a training partner. That's right. Good angle, right at the crotch. I like the roof idea. Now, most people know that when you're in a bent over position or when you're deadlifting or bent over rowing, you definitely should be trying to concentrate on fighting gravity by arching the back. You know, you're not relaxing those lower back muscles so that way you're not rounding the back. Most people know that because they don't want the ligaments or the discs to take the stress. But where the confusion comes in is when people are doing overhead presses or if they're doing squatting and they're staying a little bit more upright, they're kind of confused of what position their back should be in. Now, a slight arch, not excessive arch, is still the best position. I'm going to explain this just right after this clip. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. But you know, the battles are always worth it if you get the princess at the end, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You gotta fight the battles, deal with the hate, and then at some point you meet some incredible people because you're willing to just go out there, put yourself out there, and then the jewels will show themselves to you. You know what I mean? I can recognize, you know, the special thing in people, like kind of like you're doing with some of your friends. You know what I'm saying? You're saying, hey, that person's not like me, but they're actually better in some ways, or something to be gained, right? So anyway, like I said, it's the negativity. You're going to get that because there's just a certain demographic of people that don't want to interact or don't want to have friendship or anything anyway. They're kind of like Goal of Lord of the Rings. All they want is their precious. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't care about anything else. Yeah, I think everybody takes a turn being negative for a period of time, but the trick is that do you get stuck in it, and that's the thing, you know? Now, one thing that happened to me years ago was after I herniated my disc in my lower back, when I was a kid, basically, because nobody taught me how to arch my back or to keep my back flat or anything, and I thought, oh, neutral position is the right position. So one day I'm deadlifting, thinking I'm holding a neutral position, and I really wasn't. There was no arch at all. I was actually rounding, and I hurt my back, right? And basically what happened after that, I experiment with many different forms of lifting weights after I could start again, you know, years later when I could start actually lifting over the head or doing squats and all this kind of stuff. I had to stick to machines for quite a while before I recovered from that injury. But once I did start to train, I noticed that when I let my back maintain a neutral position per se, like not concentrate on arching it, what would happen is the lower back would flare up like crazy the next day. Now I'm sure my injury was contributing to this, but at the same time I noticed that my lower back was in more of a vulnerable position when I was not flexing the muscles behind the spine.
Well, you know, crotch shots add to the video quality of YouTube. Just gotta make sure you get enough crotch shots in. Yeah, the crotch shot thumbnail, here we go. Crotch shot.
I experimented with many different exercises, overhead presses, you know, standing overhead presses. One day I'd round the back or at least try to keep the neutral position. That's really what I mean by rounding, not arching. That's really what I'm saying. I was basically maintaining neutral position, you know, squeezing the butt cheeks like is common on the internet right now. That's what they say you should do and all this kind of stuff. And then I noticed whenever I maintained neutral position, the next day my lower back would just hurt like crazy and flare up and be all inflamed and basically it would screw me up for a few days. But the minute I concentrated on arching the back, then there was no problem. And I'm talking about a slight arch. I'm not talking about trying to hyperextend the back, okay? So I'm not an extremist here, but I'm just saying there is a natural arch that is in the lower back, and when you are in alignment with that, your back will be stronger and in a safer position. But of course, when you're arching the back, you don't want to be twisting, okay? Neutral position is for twisting, but lifting weights, arch the back. Now, obviously, during exercises such as press downs, you don't want to arch the back because the weight is trying to hyperextend your spine. It's trying to extend the spine or make it arched. So you want to actually fight that with the abs. You want to flex the abs and you actually want to try to round the back in this case, which is one of the reasons why I don't really train abs that much. I get a lot of ab work when I do press downs or movements such as this. If you tried to arch during press downs, you would end up jamming your spine and overextending the back or overarching it, right? So yeah, in cases like this, you want to round the back actually, because you want to activate those abs and keep the spine from jamming.
Well, you know, information without experience is useless. Yeah. Because only through experience we do understand how that information relates, right? If I'm blind and somebody's talking to me about the intricacies of a rainbow, I'm going to be confused, right?
So again, you're going to have to find your way through this advice that I'm giving you, okay? Because I'm just sharing my experience here. I'm sharing what happened from my experiment that took place for a long time, okay? The other thing I noticed was I was training a few guys, and a few of them were excessively overweight, where they had the big beer gut, and that gut was keeping their spine in an arch position. Now, what happened was a lot of times these guys would have extreme strength when it came down to squats and overhead presses or anything because their back was in that natural position, that arch, okay? And they never had any lower back problems. Their lower backs were like made of, I don't know what you could say, made of titanium or adamantium, like Wolverine or something, okay? But once they started losing weight and that gut wasn't pulling their back in the arch position, they started to actually have some lower back problems because the lower back wasn't being held in that arch position.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a badass. You heard it here first, I'm a little bit of a badass. You heard it.
So basically what I'm saying is that the lower back was being held in place because the weight from the stomach and the fat was actually pulling their lower back in the arch position. And once they started losing weight, then they had to rely on the muscles in the lower back to do this, and they weren't used to it, and there was a strength imbalance that had to be corrected for that, okay? So basically what I'm saying is that once the arch wasn't maintained, they started pulling their back. And this was during squats, during shoulder presses, all these types of things. But before that, somebody would look at them and say, my God, their back is too arched. What's wrong with them? They should be pulling their back. Their back should be going out of place. And their back was like bulletproof. Nothing was happening. Nothing was actually causing any problems with their lower back, even though they were in this arched position. So long story short, this is all going to depend on how you're built as well. Okay, so like I said in the beginning, if your back is really arched naturally, it looks like you're, got junk in your trunk everywhere you're walking and stuff, chances are you might want to concentrate on a little bit more of a neutral position, especially with overhead movements, or say with some movement where you're standing straight up and down and you're squatting or having some sort of weight on your shoulders. But the truth is, when you're squatting, there's always going to be a little bit of a bend over. I mean, I know mine's excessive because of my long femurs and things, but most people will be bending over a bit, and gravity will be pushing the spine into more of a rounded position, so it makes sense for you to flex the muscles to make sure that you're trying to arch at the same time. So the end result is some sort of neutral position of the spine.
Sometimes when I leg curl, I like to contemplate the mysteries of life. Like, where do mommies and daddies come from? And if a frog croaks in the forest, nobody's there to hear. Is there any sound? You know, that kind of stuff. Why does Wayne like granola bars? Why does Glenn like to cook all the time and brag about the new Tupperware he bought?
I hope some of my experiences have helped you understand this whole arched back thing when you're lifting weights, okay? And also helped you understand how to cater this to your individual needs depending on how you're built. And thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for sharing my stuff, because I know you're doing it, yeah? And just so you guys know, every Saturday I'm going to be doing a live Q&A. And yeah, just make sure you tune in. It's going to be around anywhere from 12 o'clock Pacific time to 4 o'clock Pacific time, because I have some people in Europe that actually want to watch, and I'm trying to cater to their schedules as well. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and take care for now.